So I kind of wanted to do this impromptu video. I just, for the first time ever, saw the movie My Neighbor Totoro, and I actually saw it in the movie theaters, which was pretty incredible. Safe to say. I'm trying to think what other movies. I think I've seen Ponyo in the movie theaters, and all the other ones I've seen on either Blu-ray or uh, digital via streaming. I haven't seen all the Studio Ghibli films, but this is one that I've been wanting to see, and I've loved the little character for a long time, just because he's so charming. And it's safe to say that Totoro lives up to every expectation and more. Um, I made a short earlier today before the or a reel or whatever you want to call it, before the actually going in and seeing the film. Uh, I was mistaken. The film came out in '88, so it's actually just a few months older than me. It came out April 16th, 1988 in Japan. I don't see a date for the States, but I believe it didn't come to the States till the '90s. And I believe that it was published by Disney. I will say I did see it in its original language in Japanese, and I had English subtitles through the movie. I really did want to see it dubbed. One, I actually kind of prefer dub. I know some people aren't really about that. Um, and I think some things are and some things aren't. Like I actually played Silent Hill F. I played that with the original Japanese languages because the characters felt out of place speaking English, in my opinion. So, but one of the main reasons I wanted to see it is that Dakota and Elle Fanning were actually the sisters in the film, which I'm going to touch on the family dynamic here in a second. But um, my goodness, was it what what a fantastic film. And sometimes when you see films that when you just kind of look at like, okay, it's animated, so a lot of people want to jump to it's for children, right? We also know that anime, Japanese animation, or if you're as old as me, it was Japanimation back in the day before the term anime really kind of started taking off. But like, it's and I've been watching anime for a long time. Even Howl's Moving Castle, I would consider to be one of my favorite films. I don't really see anime as anime the way other people do, and they get really into it. I see it just as another show or another movie. So I actually judge it just by the story objectively. But I will say that there is a lot of anime that I do enjoy, but I don't jump into it the way other folks do. Even though I've been actually to Anime NYC in 2023, it was awesome. It was fantastic. I believe it was 23. It may have been 24 actually, but it was at the Jarvis Convention in New York City. It was incredible. It was so much fun. They were announcing a bunch of Gundam stuff, and I can't say who invited me, um, but I want to thank that group of people and it was cool to see all the Gundam announcements, not to mention all the other cool announcements that were there. And it's gotten even bigger now, which is even cooler. But to jump back to My Neighbor Totoro, um, it's just like all the other films. It's nothing but charming. It has its own unique story. And there's something that I really want to point out that kind of had me almost choked up the entire movie. So the plot is based around a family. And at first, it's just the father and the two daughters. That alone, in today's generation, I can only think of one television show that there's I would say similar, but like a setup like that. And when I was growing up, there was a show called on TGIF called Step by Step, where there was a father and an uncle who were raising the 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 children of this one kid. I think it was what three girls, the Olsen twins, and then there was the other daughter. I believe I I I didn't watch it as much, or I don't remember as much, but there was positive male influence, and there was another male too, right? There was another uncle or a friend, I believe, too. But there was positive. The point I'm making that there was positive male influence amongst uh, that were family members with positive female young influences, instead of it always being some sort of negative or bad or something like that. I love the fact that they show the strength of family, um, and that dynamic between, and the importance of the father and daughter dynamic, which again we're seeing come out very heavily right now. They call it the oh my god, it's like the father simulators, I think is what or the daughter simulators, something like that. Which Last of Us Part One would be one, Pragmata would be another. These are fantastic games. I believe The Road is very similar to like The Last of Us. I've never seen the movie, but I hear it's very similar. But like, so just that alone. Also the fact that it's a time before television. At the end of the film, after the credits, actually most of the credits, it was like an older movie. How a lot of the credits are actually up front. There's very very small credits at the end, like very very limited. And they had a small, just kind of talking about the movie with Miyazaki, the head creator of Ghibli and the head writer and artist and whatnot. The creative director, I think, is his position, and head of the studio. But he talked about that he wanted the family, or especially the children, the girls, to act because they went to like a rural community. I mean, this home is like an older Japanese home, and it's sat next to like a rice field, and that's where a lot of the people, the adults, when they would get up in the morning and work, would go work in the rice field. Now, this father was a professor and would go back into the town, into Tokyo, in order to teach. And so a lot of times he'd be in his study at the house when he was home, working on stuff while the girls were playing or the one daughter was at school. But one of the other things that I thought was beautiful that kind of reminded me. Now, I grew up as a young child in a suburb in the city of Tampa in Florida, before moving to another part of Florida where I grew up actually in a very rural part. So I understand this minus the technology and large electricity and whatnot. But like they even had like a storm come through and you can feel the house shake a little bit. I remember all those things, especially living out in a rural area. There's not much to break wind coming in. It does make things cooler because you can feel the air, but like it was interesting that there were so many little things that I remember being a city kid and then coming to a rural area, or for some people they call them providences, these providence areas, in order to know like you're kind of secluded out here and things are different even though there's wind everywhere, but like it's very different the way a home reacts because there's nothing blocking it, right? And my folks had quite a bit of land too that they could uh that they had purchased, and so like even though we had a one direct, or your neighbors were in sight, but like you still had quite a bit of land, each of us, to ourselves, that we were luckily enough were able to purchase before pricing kind of got out of hand, um, in the modern era currently here. Um, but it was beautiful to see children play, and it's something that again I got choked up again, and I know it doesn't mean much, but like when I see people's children now and see them kind of glued to like iPads and I mean kids have been watching TV for long. I watched a lot of TV as a kid too. But like but I still went outside and played a lot. I had neighborhood friends, like even when I moved out to a rural area, my parents would still make points to have me go hang out with like my childhood friends and stuff like that. Um so it was nice to it was nice to kind of see those things come to light and how the story kind of unfolds. You figure out, but it's a common kind of idea and thought. Well, where's the mother? Has she passed? Is she ill? She is ill. She's actually in a hospital. She's never walking, even though she's kind of sitting on the edge of the bed. So it seems like she has some sort of mobility, but we don't really know what's going on with it. They don't really say. If you think time period wise, it might be early 1900s. Seems like maybe even well, there was phones. I'm trying to think of when phones became commercial. I don't know. Well, I don't even know when they became commercial over in Japan. I'm doing some pretty hard assuming here. Um, no, I would say it's probably post-war because I don't think they had. It's probably post-war. So if I were to throw a stone and guess, oh yeah, because they had motorcycles and stuff in the film. So which I think their auto industry really took off when America was helping them out after the war, which would have been the 50s, late 40s, actually going into the. But the father would go into Tokyo, and there was buses and stuff. So yeah. So we're looking at probably mid to late 50s going into the 60s. Um, Probably mid 50s because again, there wasn't television, and you're seeing traditional homes. Where it's just kind of big open rooms, open spaces where air can pass through. Very common in Japanese homes, seeing a lot of I think they're called tatami rooms, where they're just kind of flat open rooms with like I think bamboo flooring and whatnot, and then you roll out your it's a bed, but it's almost like a mat. I'm sorry for anybody who lives in Japan and is watching this, or you've come across and you want to be correcting me. It's like I can't think of the word. We have them in the States, but it's different for us in the States. We don't roll them out. But either way, it's usually like a couch that like folds down. Kind of losing my words. It's a little late. I actually drove back to the office to give my impressions because I like using this computer here. But so it's really beautiful too how much the children care about their mother, how the guiding words to the children from the mother, um, the interaction between the husband and wife, how no one's trying to undermine each other like you see in a lot of modern television or just social media, and how the propaganda right now is real bad about trying to divide men and women and husbands and wives. It's quite disgusting. When if anything, the propaganda should be pulling families together and showing family units. And it was beautiful to see families. And if anything, it was very encouraging to see families and to see like the overarching, even though like from afar, if you were to explain the movie would actually be the girls like interaction with, finding these creatures and then what happens there. But if you notice, I haven't even brought it up yet because it on a deeper root, it isn't actually the story. They just play a part in it. And so, and the fact that like nobody can see them, which is very interesting too. So it made me think like in the post credits, they made reference that Totoro, which is funny because when the girl first sees him, she knows the name. So Totoro is a storybook or something but I don't know I don't remember them referencing that because I didn't know that. That might be something that's popular in Japan that I don't know about. But oh, I have Wikipedia up in front of me. It does take place in 1950s Japan, where he is a university professor. So I got all that correct. I mean, we know he's a professor. I mean, you kind of because they say he works at a university, but you gather that he has a whole library full of books and stuff in his house. After they move in, it's really cool that they get this old like Japanese house and they start like fixing it up and that, and what's wonderful too is that the town pulls together and like man, it made me really think of how much we're missing out by. It's funny. In America, we have this thing called gated communities, but it seems like the last thing from a community. It's nothing but Karens and Bettys complaining at each other, and men trying to run away from homeowner associations and like, but it's the safer place to live. But it's just, but you see these kind of like this was an actual community. How like they referred to her as grandma, but she was the nanny, and which they also referred to as the nanny too. It just depended on the who was having the conversation. But this older woman was helping the younger children in the community. It's kind of what she did, and the fact that she knew that the mother was sick and she was just meeting them was helping out. But I think that's a part of how that community works too. Like everybody pitches in somehow. Um, but it truly was wonderful. Again, I love the parents dynamic together. Um, the father, his the image of him that he was quite gentle. The way he showed stoicism all the time, I felt like he was very strong, but not in like some weird, like overly like masculine way. Like he was just a normal guy who was, you know, his kids were scared because the house was creaking and they could hear actually they later find out. So Totoro's making noises, but they thought it was like ghost or something like that. And he goes, "Well, let's laugh so we can show them that we're not afraid." And they start like fake laughing, like really loud. And the one girl's like, "Well, I'm scared," so she tickles her, and it's like, and it's things like that that make a true man and that make a good father. Being in those moments, being strong for your children and your girls, and I'm not a father, so maybe I'm at a place for speaking, but for someone who I have nephews and seeing from afar and how you should treat children. Obviously, I'm old enough that I have tons of friends who have kids and whatnot, and like seeing what it takes to be that, and also seeing the mistakes and seeing that represented in a movie, and it's not this curated where he's this fake where you're like, that's so over the top. Nobody's like that. That's ridiculous. Where it's too much, right? It's not even masculine at that point. It's like, are you trying to prove something, buddy? What's going on here? And then there's the reverse where he's this weak and meek, frail man, and anything gets to him, and he yells and he's irate all the time. No, no, no. He was cool, calm, collected, was always on point, was always in charge, knew how to handle situations, knew how to manage his daughters, how to like, hey, go upstairs and open up the windows up there. Help me get the house finished up. Let's get some air moving in here. Just really, really lovely things like that. Now moving past that, always this overarching like missing their mother. Um, and they're going through this big move and going through this, so they have to find ways of entertainment. The older daughter has school, so she can always kind of put her mind at school, which they kind of touch on just a little bit. The young daughter kind of starts kind of looking around. Kids get bored, they want to play, they stumble upon things. We all did it when we were kids, at least if you're old enough. You get in some small mischief, and this can turn into finding things and discovering things, use your imagination. And so she finds one, the tiny, the way she phrased it is she goes, there was a tiny one, a small one, and a huge one, or a very large one, or something like that. The youngest daughter, and uh she finds the really, really tiny one, the really, really tiny Totoro, and it like sneaks underneath the house to get away from her, where the other Totoro, the small one, so there's the tiny one, there's a small one, kind of try to run away from her, and she runs after him, and they kind of she finds their kind of like hiding place where they are. And so there are these like magical creatures that live in the forest. How she stumbled across was very like Alice in Wonderland. Kind of crawled through like a hole in the forest and then kind of fell into this thing. And it was very genuine how, again, I'm getting the impression that the Totoro character is either popular prior to the book, or it's from it's like a children's book that people would have known about that then was used, or a similar character was used in it because she knew it, or maybe I missed something um, in all of this that she immediately called it a Totoro. Again, maybe they're a popular like creature. It's a mythical creature in Japan. I don't that part I actually don't know. Um, Let me see if I can kind of look while I'm kind of rambling here. So the so she kind of comes across it, and it she kind of they it kind of ends up just being where she kind of bumps into it every once in a while. It's like a kind of a fictional kind of character, and but it helps her like with a few things along the way. And then the other dollar finally meets Totoro 2, waiting for the father. They like wait in the rain forever, but they see this really weird like magical cat bus, which is kind of silly and ridiculous. Also, Totoro's really ridiculous, whereas like the typical anime, like when it opens his mouth, it's ginormous and makes silly sounds, and Wi but it's still charming and endearing. The famous photo where it's standing at the bus stop and the girls have, like, the umbrella, and it has a leaf as, like, a hat to cover itself from the rain, and yet it's a huge creature, and yeah, it's got a little hat, but it's just a big leaf. So it's just silly things kinda like that. But, at one point, they find out that the mother could be more ill. Come to find out it's just a cold. And they were just in America, they wouldn't even call anybody if somebody got a cold, unless it like you got an infection from it somehow and it was getting like could head towards pneumonia or like you know what I mean, like it was heading towards negative areas. They wouldn't even bother with that. Um, I know in Japan they have so much respect, so I'm sure they probably would have sent a telegram to Tony's home at this time period or given somebody a phone call. Um, So the girls are worried out of their minds. They have an eternal fight between the two. They run off. Then they lose each other. So the one girl, Stuart's help from Totoro. They end up finding each other. And then they end up kind of coming together. And then they end up where the movie kind of ends is it's funny. They're like, oh, we want to go see mom in the hospital, but they they're actually sitting. This cat bus like takes them to a tree, and they're kind of just sitting in the tree and they observe their parents just smiling and happy and expressing love to each other. They leave like they were like picking some veggies beforehand, so they leave this piece of corn, um, which I thought was kind of funny. But I mean, but that actually would have been a really nice gesture to leave some food for your sick mother who's in the hospital, right? What's so the movie ends, but what's beautiful is they just have some like still animations as the final credits are rolling, and one of them is of the mom coming out of a taxi coming home. And that was one of the things I really loved too, is that even though we didn't get to see it like play out, but that it happened. And what's beautiful about it is it allows your imagination to run wild with you see that the smallest child was very happy, was excited. Um I mean the children in general. And of course the father's there also, but like it's so overall I I don't think I have anything negative to say about this film. It was incredible. Um, if anything, if I had to say something, I wish more modern films and American films could be like this. I think not even rated G. What I'm saying is good writing, creativity, um, artistry, like so when I say creativity, I mean the creativity in the writing, but then like the artistry, I mean like going outside a box of creating very interesting characters, a very very interesting way of children who probably in reality are imagining these creatures because no one they make a point to go, no one else can see you. They notice that no one else sees you because no one else is reacting. and that they use these Totoros that are from a storybook apparently to help them digest dealing with their mother's illness, which I find absolutely beautiful. And it's so ungodly rare, 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 rare that we get anything like this, anything at all. It's it's kind of one of the reasons I even kind of like turned back to gaming because in the early 2000s, I thought a lot of films in Hollywood were starting to lack in quality and delivery of writing because a lot of the movies I liked were like from like the 80s prior. I liked a lot of the comedies from like the 80s and 90s, but when it comes to like deep storytelling and heavy creativity and artistry, you really see it in older American films. Not to mention in other countries too. But this is time and time and time again. Studio Ghibli is for the movies that I have seen from them. And like I said in my short, I have been to Japan, and I have seen a bunch of. I haven't been to the theme park. Um, there's like Studio Ghibli theme park. I did go to. Let me see if I can type this out while I'm talking to you guys because I am a very bad typer and look at and la, 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 a typer and looking kind of guy. So, I have not been to that theme park, which I forget where that is. Um, but where I have been actually, now actually I'll bring this up real quick. Where oh no. Is this permanently closed? So what I was gonna say is there is a theme park. Not a theme park in the way like Disney, Busch Gardens, Universal Studios is. I am thinking of the is this the right one? I guess it is. Yeah, the Evangelion Kyoto base. And it's in this really nice. It's kind of based around like movies and TV shows. So they just kind of like a lot of like props and stuff like that. But what I wanted to say though is they had a lot of like like small like old like homes that were like out and about. Oh, it is still open. Okay, okay, it is still open. Yeah, it's in Kyoto. I pulled up the there. I guess there was like another thing that was open, but now it's closed. In Fuji Yoshida. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. But they have this really cool unit, like giant. It's like almost like a bus where it's like from the chest up. Unit one, it's sitting like it's pool blood with like its hand out. You can stand the, I think you can stand the hand. I knew you can go up like top and stuff like that too. So it's super super awesome. I should post some pictures on my Instagram here from my trip. But to kind of jump back, um, but there's a bunch of old homes like that that were actually like props from like a movie that were there were really interesting that let me see kind of how old Japanese homes are. And because I love going to American like historical sites, like and seeing old we actually have one in the city of Estero that's not too far away. That here's an old like cult and it has all their old houses and stuff like that. But it's really, but we even have like the Edison house here and stuff like that because Thomas Edison lived in around this area. Because Fort Myers is not that far away either, and that's where he lived. But one of the things I wanted to bring up though about it, lastly, before kind of closing out, I wanted to touch on, and if you have it, and again, I appreciate you just listening to my thoughts. If you've kind of stayed with me, So I've been to Japan twice now. Uh, I've been to a few of the cities. I think both times I pretty much went to the same cities. I just spent more and less time in each of them. But I've been to Tokyo, been to several different districts in Tokyo, Kyoto, Yokohama. Yokohama is amazing. Osaka, Nagoya. Um, I think I've probably been in a few other places. Again, I've been to a bunch of districts in Tokyo, but I there was a small portion again where I went to this theme park and I got to see some old like traditional like small homes and how almost like a small city was like laid out. But I also got to like oh, it looks like it's called Small Worlds of Tokyo. I think is what it's called. Either way, sorry, I got distracted. I was looking at the article there. But like for anybody who hasn't been, and actually the people who have been can probably relate. There's something very different about Japan that's very, very special that a lot of people don't realize. And Japan is a place that I probably think about daily. It is a place not because it's, my American, there is that part where I just want to go shopping and hang out, eat the delicious food. But there's something about that place and the history of that place. And again, it's not perfect. No country's perfect. Every country has good and bad things, but Japan is probably one of the greatest nations I've ever visited. I I have so much love and respect for that nation. So much that I always think about how can I get back there? How can I stay longer? And can I stay? I will always love America first. I will always love my nation first. It will always be my home. But there's something about the people, the way they, it might be different when you stay there, but the way I was treated every single time was with the utmost kindness. I don't know to speak the language. Um, I do know if I know some phrases and I understand a little bit too. What helped is that I studied Okinawan karate when I was a kid, so I do understand some. And I do consume a lot of Japanese content in Japanese, so you get used to hearing a few things. And the first time I went, I actually studied quite a bit of Japanese, of just a bunch of general terms, so I could at least like ask for things. And everybody seemed very happy that I was making the effort to do so. And everybody was so respectful. Everybody was so kind. Everybody smiled. Um, I mean, it was little to no rude people. I'm not saying again, no place is perfect. I'm not, but it was so little. If there was, I don't remember it. I would say everybody for the most part was fantastic. Was ungodly nice. Found ways to communicate with me. In Tokyo, I would say most people spoke English or had broken English, or could. It was easier to communicate because they were used to dealing with foreigners. I mean, Tokyo is, believe, the biggest city in the world, and that is their international hub. So there was people coming in and out of there all day. Um, when I would, speak business, people spoke English, so it wasn't an issue. But like it is. I have so many memories there of doing such simple things. Um, I didn't get to visit any of the countryside, which is what I would really love to see. And after watching this movie, really, it's like, man, how much I long for I love tech, as you can tell. And the channel's going to be around tech. I don't plan on getting rid of it anytime soon, right? But there is something about how crazy this has made my life and how crazy this all is. Making sure these mics work, making sure, oh, I always got to have the better thing. Oh, when's the next Xbox coming out? And you're always in that rush to to get the next thing, and it's like, man, sometimes it just doesn't matter. And like even right now, like I have a professional grade camera that I can use, but I'm actually just using my 4K webcam. And I even have it just running at 30 frames because it's good enough. And I just wanted some quick reactions. I just wanted to get on the mic, talk, see if there's something I personally wanted to get this out of my system and wanted to see if anybody else wanted to hear my thoughts. And so Japan is it is another world. Um, and I will say, I mean, just like even in America, we have some immigration issues we're trying to sort out, and so are they. Again, nothing's perfect. They're doing the best they can, just like we are. And sometimes that stuff gets messy too, and it's truly unfortunate. And I don't mean that in any political left or right side. I'm a centrist, and I plan on staying in the center where all those people have conversations and talk. And um, I had a wonderful experience. Um, Again, I think it they really went out of their way when I would say things in Japanese. And not just one thing, like several things. Um, I'm not saying you have to do that. I will say the further you get out of Tokyo, the less the question mark look on their face you're both going to give each other is going to happen. Um, but again, everybody found ways. I remember a lady. I went and I got a pastry. It was almost like this, like really delicious, like Danish. It was probably, oh my god, it was probably one of the best like Danishes I had like ever had. I can't even explain it because it didn't even look like a standard like American like cheese Danish. It was almost like coned up, and it was like inside. It was delicious. I don't even know how to explain it. It was amazing. Um, I had given her, I think it was like 10 yen too much. She chased me down the street, and I hear this lady like yelling. I'm like, what the, somebody yelling in Tokyo, or actually, I don't think it was in Tokyo, but there's someone yelling down the street is not common. And here's, I can hear someone kind of saying something. I don't know. And I apologize. I'm not trying to make fun of you. I don't know what they were saying. And everybody's kind of turning around. All of a sudden, she comes up and she has this little coin. She goes, oh, and kind of, I think she said like, oh, you left this or something to the similar. Because I don't know all the words. Um, and of course, I'm orgado gozaimasu. Like, oh my gosh, I give her a big bow. Like, and bowing is their handshake. It's a form of respect back and forth. They don't touch really. Um, but yeah, it was incredible. And so to kind of put this together, watching this movie and seeing how a community like came together. I understand it was a different time, and now we have different tools that we can use, and that yeah, communities are a little bit further apart. But then I always hear stories about like rural Japan. I hear stories about like people like living in rural areas in like the Baltics, in like Eastern Europe and stuff like that. And like that stuff still exists. Like people drinking like raw milk and just like, hey, can I buy some for? I just want to buy one. They're like, no, 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 here, have three. No, no, I only gave you enough money for one. I only have money. No, no, here, take another. Thank you for coming back, and visiting. And like, you're just like, wow, where are those people? And I'm not saying I don't experience that here in America. I live in the South, so there definitely is a Southern charm that I do experience from people. Um, but it's not all the time, and I'm sure it's probably because I live here and you get to see some of the negative sides of it too. So I'm not trying to talk about my own country. I love my country, and even the state of Florida is like living in a fantasy world. When I have visited other parts of the country, and you're just like, "Oof, what is going on here, guys? Let's figure this out." Where you come back home and you realize like it's worth the extra money to live here. It's worth that we take the extra time to keep our area clean and keep our streets clean and keep a safe city. Um, but yeah, to wrap it all up, it was beautiful to see the family dynamic. how children use their imagination from characters from a storybook to deal with their grieving mother, who ended up being okay in the end, which was beautiful. Seeing happy parents who seem to quite love each other, to seeing a whole family, not a broken one. Seeing a community that works together. How the community was helping each other when the little girl got lost, trying to look for her. And um, seeing some of the greatest parts of a country that I love, that I would love to see again and spend time in again, and would love to see some of those parts. I actually think about trying, like, committing to actually like learning Japanese, um, just so when I go, I could interact with more people and show them more respect. So, but I guess those are my thoughts. If I were to give a thing to it, I'd say 10 out of 10. It's a perfect film. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. I think that goes for almost every Studio Ghibli film. I think, if anything, this might be the best one. I think one of the crimes of some of the other ones is that can be a little long in the tooth sometimes, because of the way the stories like progress. Um, but they're still borderline perfect films. This might be the best one, and I understand why. I understand why when I've been to malls in Japan, like Totoros are everywhere. So, if you haven't seen the film, sorry I spoiled some of this for you. I was just giving my reactions to it. So I guess I should maybe put a thing in the thumbnail. I'm getting used to all this YouTube stuff again. So it's nice to kind of be back in the creative chair again. I've really been enjoying it. So I've got a lot of really cool things coming up for the channel. So if you like it, again, this is again just kind of a quick reaction. It's pretty late here at night, and I just wanted to give some thoughts. But My Neighbor Totoro is, I would call it a masterpiece. It is probably one of the best films that I've ever seen. So, on that, everyone, depending on when you were watching this, for me, it's pretty late here at night. So, have a good night yourself, and hopefully, we can do more of these soon. Take care, everyone.